the environment. We want to protect the environment. So the environmentalists will tell you, don't farm around the water bodies.
Please, we can't see.
You can't see the slice.
Yeah, we can't see the slice anymore.
Can you see now?
No, please.
Okay, can you see? Then maybe it might be your network. Or all of you cannot see.
Madam, I can't see you.
You also can see.
I can see.
Yeah.
Who else
Me
can
too.
see? I think it might be your network.
Madam, mine is showing.
Sorry?
Mine is showing.
Yours is showing.
Yeah.
But you have the slice already, so if it's not coming, you can refer to it. Okay?
Right.
Okay, madam.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not working.
Let's do it that way so that at times the internet it's not stable. So it will come back. Sorry about that. So we look at the environment and the poverty. Because of poverty, because of the urge to earn income, people may farm along the water bodies. Though they are saying that if you farm along the water bodies, you expose the rivers to dry up in the dry season. But because of want of income, people farm along the water bodies. So we are looking at poverty and then the environment. So is the poor, we're looking at the Galamsey issue. They know, not that they don't know, that when they mine the golds using the method that they are using, it's causing a lot of environmental degradation, but they want to get income. So with this, it becomes an issue. So do we allow the poor to destroy the environment or we should manage it? These are issues. So when poverty level is high, then the environment suffers. So he says that individuals in poor communities usually overdepend on the environment and in most cases degrade it. So environmental degradation may be in the form of soil erosion, farming in environmental sensitive areas like the water bodies, overgrazed like these people who bring their cattle for grazing, Fulani people, and then the depleted ranges, fuel shortages, deforestation. They want to sell firewood so that they can get some income. So they cut the wood. Yesterday they showed on television they were cutting the dawa tree for burning charcoal, and people were complaining about it. And then bushfires so that they can do their own thing, get some firewood to sell, or maybe catch some animals for sale and others. So all these activities destroy the environment. It's because of poverty. So that is what it says. So in Ghana, deforestation and bushfire have destroyed many arable lands for agriculture, to which the lives of rural folks depend. So at times they forget they burn some people's cocoa farms and other property because they're for want of one or two things. So this is for the environment. Then we look at uncontrolled human settlement. Poverty is characterized by uncontrolled human settlement. Where we live, at times there's no ventilation. At times it's not a good place. But what else can they do? They don't have water. At times, yesterday, I've forgotten the name of the community, but they complained that the water that the only source of drinking water that they have, they share with animals. Can you imagine? But it's still no fault of theirs, but that's where they find themselves. So it says poverty in the rural areas is characterized by uncontrolled settlements. The urban poor are mostly found in slums where there is frequent occurrence of waterborne diseases. Those who live in Fadama, when the floods come, when it rains and the flood comes, look at their plight. Inadequate services delivery, they don't have access to any of the services. At times there's no electricity, water is a problem, and a whole lot of issues. And poor environmental sanitation, among others. I don't need to tell you all this. You all know some of these things. And at times, when you go to the market, you may think the containers there are for market purposes, but at dawn, If you go there, you see people coming in from that place. They live there, their televisions and all other things are there. That's where they live. Slums also have housing without sufficient space, ventilation, access to sunlight. They don't care about these things. All they need is to lay their heads. And some even sleep in front of some people's shops. And this one can bring in diseases and other issues. So all these add up to the poverty level and the plight of the poor in the country. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Yes,
madam.
madam.
Okay, thank you. So that is poverty in Ghana. So we are going to look at some of the policies that have been enrolled to look at poverty, to address poverty in the country. All these policies, we have discussed them already under policy initiatives. We discussed all these already. I'm just mentioning them for you. So in case you have any issue, you can talk economic recovery program into detail. So you look at the aspects that address poverty. We have looked at PAMS card, which you were laughing at me. We have looked at Vision 2020, GPRS 1, GPRS 2 for economic cultural transformation. It was part of the GPRS 2. Monetary policy management was part of GPRS 2. And then livelihood and power against poverty. It was part of GPRS 2 when they were giving money, some kind of stipend to people who are very poor and those who are HIV positive and children of those who have passed away as a result of the HIV. And then we have the HIPIC. We have discussed all these already. So I will plead with you, go back to the documents and the discussions that we had and look at the aspects that address poverty. We have looked at them and then analyzed them. So if there are criticism, we have looked at all those things. So I expect that you go back, look at the document and then pick out those, the areas that have looked at poverty and then the criticism or the assessment that come out with them. So that will be for poverty, income distribution, income inequality, welfare, and all those things. So if you have any question, ask me now. Or if there are no issues, then I'll move on to we move into another topic. Why are you laughing? Are you happy?
Yeah, hello, madam.
Yes, please.
Hello, madam.
Yes, please, I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
Yes, madam. Please, some of us were not able to follow the lecture last week, so we are particularly lost on the explanation of inequality and the Lorentz curve. So we were asking how we could get access to the recording. Hello.
I think last week you had a problem when the internet was not stable. I forgot to save, so I lost everything. So for last week lecture, we couldn't record.
Yes.
But for today's lecture, although it's recording.
Yes, but
So
madam,
sorry about that.
So the Lorentz curve and the Gini coefficient.
If you read, and then you have questions, then you ask, because you can't take the whole class back like that. You read. When you read,
Okay.
there are issues. What you have to do is you note down your questions.
Okay.
Ahmed, all you
Yes.
have to do is when you read and you have your questions, and then when we come during next week, you ask me, and then maybe I take you back. Or individually, you can get in touch with me.
Okay.
I explain to you because you can't take the whole class
Yes.
back. Some people are already crying over their data. So if I have to repeat, it will be another issue for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we are about 200. Oh, now we have only 34 people. So if everybody should come every day and then ask us to
Yes.
go back, we'll not finish. Yeah.
Madam.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Hello, madam.
yes, please.
Madam, if you could kindly reschedule another day so that those of us who couldn't catch up could join you the next meeting and catch up.
Those who couldn't do what?
Who couldn't join you for the first discussion?
That's what I'm telling Ahmed. Go and read. When you read and then you have questions, what you don't understand, you note them down. When we come next week, or maybe you can call me and then ask me your questions, and then maybe I will explain to you. Because taking the whole class back is another, because that would mean that those who were here last week will be wasting their time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm saying, those of us who couldn't meet, those who were able to join the discussion, they could be doing something else. But we, those who miss it, then we'll use it to cover up. But
But
not
this is our
necessarily.
lecture room. No, I understand you, but this is our lecture room. So it could be that I have people who were there last week and then I take them back. It's not proper. I don't think it's right. So what I'm saying is you mix the lecture. If you read and then you have questions, you can call me personally and ask me, or next week when we come, we know that the questions and then you ask me and explain to you.
Okay,
Do you
madam.
understand what I'm saying?
Madam.
It's unfortunate we couldn't record that one because we had little challenges with the network. So we had to close earlier than we were supposed to. So you do that for me so that if there are issues, you can iron them out. Right?
Okay. Yes, madam. Thank
Do
you.
we have other issues? Okay, if there are no other issues, then we'll move on to look at our new topic. We are going to look at financial developments in Ghana. I am treating this one because as you go ahead, you may need some of these things. It had been the cat people, I would have stopped here. But for you, you will need them. So I have to talk about, first year we didn't do, I don't know if we did fiscal development, so I can't remember the fiscal policy anyway. But let's go through this one and see how far it will take that when, as you go ahead, them somehow along the line. So let me take you through. When we talk about fiscal policy, fiscal policy, we are looking at government spending and then government tax policies to manage the economy. I've already mentioned the macroeconomic variables to you. There are 4 of them. We have the balance of payments, we have price, we have growth, and then we have unemployment. So we look at how government can use its tax policies or expenditure policies to manage these variables when they are not stable. And then what comes after that. So you look at debts and you look at how we manage the debts, the effect of the debts on the economy, and all those issues concerned in the sphere of fiscal policy. That's what we are going to do. So we'll first look at what we mean by fiscal policy. When we talk about fiscal policy, we are looking at any measure that alters the level, timing, or composition of government spending and or the level, timing, or structure of tax payments. So invariably, we are looking at government spending and then government tax policies to manage the economy. And that is what we mean by fiscal policy. So he says it is thus the use of government spending and government and taxation to influence macroeconomic aggregates. So these are the macroeconomic variables. We have employment, output, that is the growth, and then price, and then balance of payment. First year, we did the business cycle. So the business cycle, we look at the fluctuations that we have in GDP. So here we are looking at maybe recession or boom, the fluctuations that we have in output. So when it happens that way, and we are looking at fiscal policy, we are looking at how government can use its tax policy or expenditure policy to stabilize output so that we have a smooth growth of the economy. And then we look at how government can use its tax policies or expenditure to manage price. We discuss inflation. So when inflation is high, how does the government use its tax policy or expenditure policy to curb it? That's what fiscal policy is about. Or maybe we need to create employment. How the government use these two policies to create jobs so that the unemployment goes down. That is what fiscal policy is about. So, in view of managing these macroeconomic variables, some other issues crop up. And that is what we are going to look at, and then look at how they affect the economy. So he says fiscal policy entails, in addition, government's plan for spending and taxation designed to direct aggregate demand to a desired level. So fiscal policy is undertaken by the government through the budgets. So you see, if you look at the budget, it's fiscal policy. We have the expenditure side, and then we have the revenue side. So the government fiscal policy is found in the budget. So if I should ask you, what is government budget? What is a budget anyway? Maybe you can have your personal budget. What is a budget in general? What is a budget? No. Nobody?
Okay, I would say a budget is an estimate of income and expenditure for a set of period of time.
Okay. So you looked at proposed income and then proposed expenditure for a certain period of time. Thank you. But if you are looking at government budgets, then you look at the proposed government expenditure, the expenditure that the government intends to incur for a period of 1 year, and then the revenue that it intends to collect. So you put them down, the expectation of income, you put them down, and then you have the budget. So you put them together, and then you have the expenditure side, and then you have the revenue side. So when, let's say, individuals can have their budgets. I have my budget. So at the end of every month when I'm paid, I know what to use for what. So maybe this one is for savings, this one is to buy this one is to buy that. So you have your budget already because you have the income, you know how much you are going to get at the end of every month. So when other incomes come in, you have plans for it. So you don't budget, you use your money anyhow. But if you budget, it gives you a plan, a framework for your spending. So if you don't have a budget, get a budget so that when your parents give you money, you spend them wisely. Okay. So if you have a budget, yeah, it's a piece of advice for free consultation. So if you have a budget, at the end of the day, we expect that you should put them together and know how much you are spending and how much you are earning. So government looks at its revenue and then looks at the expenditure that it intends to pay, and then have what you call the budget balance. The budget balance. So okay, let me explain this. If I get the and have what you balance, you look at the reflection on your, so you look at the difference. It happens that your total expenditure exceeds the total revenue. When the total proposed expenditure exceeds the proposed revenue, then we say that you have a deficit budget. A deficit budget. And then if from the other way around, the revenue exceeds the expenditure, then you have the surplus budget. Surplus budget. If they are equal, then you have a balanced budget. But there is another variable that we call the budget deficits and then budget surplus. They are not the same. So please, now I have forgotten the difference. So please go and look at it. We have, if you don't want to do anything, go and look at it.
Okay.
They are not the same. We have We have deficit budgets, and then you have budget deficits. So note it down and go and find the difference. Next, when we meet, I'll ask you. And then we have surplus budgets and then budget surplus. Go and look for the difference. They are not the same. One is created intentionally. The government intentionally gets one, but the other one is the outcome of the budget. I hope that the work I want you to do is clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So later on, we will look at the implications, whether we have a deficit or we have a surplus. We will look at the implications on the economy. Also, we will dwell on the deficit because in our economy here, it's almost always deficits that we have. So we will look at it. Okay, the next slide is talking about the purpose of a budget. Why do we need to have budgets? In actual fact, it takes a whole lot to have a budget. It takes a whole lot to have a budget. So, why do we need to have a budget? So he says, why do you have to go through sit down, sleepless nights? And we do it from the district assemblies, then you go to the regional coordinating councils, and then it goes to the ministries, and then the ministries meet, and then every ministry submits its budget, and the Ministry of Finance sit down, spend sleepless nights, and put everything together as a budget for the nation. It takes a whole lot of efforts for the Minister of Finance to present the budget. So why do we need to go through that? Let's look at why we need to have a budget. So he says through the budget, government mobilizes resources. You always need to know what you want to do, which will compel you to mobilize resources. Because assuming you draw your budget and then you have a deficit, you will have to, government will have to borrow, know where to borrow, how much to borrow, so that we'll be able to incur the expenditure that he has put down. So it helps the government to mobilize resources. My mommy would always tell you, "Nyankopɔn ɔhwɛ w'aduane so ansa na wabɔ akɔnhoma." And when she says it, I laugh. So you look at how much you want to spend, and then you try to get revenue to, incur the or spend the money. So to resources for economic development. So you know what we want to do. You have a focus. So if you don't have the money, I said I was going to do this. So let me try to look for money to do that. So that is why it helps the government to mobilize resources. So here you see it serves as an instrument for macro management. I think I've talked about this one already. We talked about the monetary aggregates. So we use the budget, which is the same as the fiscal policy, to manage the economy in terms of unemployment. How should the government work well so that it creates jobs? In terms of inflation, how can the government use this instrument, spending, taxation, policies to reduce inflation, all those things. That is the economic management. So he says balance, surplus, or deficit budget, which we have explained already, determines the stability of the economy. And I said we are going to look at this one, especially the deficit. Excuse me. Yes, please. So we look at how the deficit budget can influence the economy, because I said that we are almost always in deficit. So that is what we will look at. So we use it as an instrument. The budget is used as an instrument to manage the economy. It defines the status of national debt and the role of government activity. So the budget will tell you whether we are going to borrow or we are going to save, or maybe the national also mentioned in the budget. So we are going to look at national debt as a subtopic under this one and look at it and look at the implications on the economy. It says the budget serves as an administrative and political tool. Through the budget, the government administers the nation, and then they are able to put up their political issues also. So it serves as a source of public information. The budget is there for everybody. You can download it everywhere. So does somebody want to talk? If you are not talking, please mute. Amidu, mute for us, okay? So it serves as a source of public information, plans of the nation, because it's carved from the plans of the nation, and then the future prospects of the economy. All these are seen in the budgets. So it says some of the main objective of government. So what do we expect from government? These are some of the main objective of government. The main objective of government is to stabilize the economy, look at how it could be able to manage the macroeconomic variables, because we have seen it going to be discussed that when the economy is stable, it can enhance economic growth, it can enhance development of the economy, a whole lot of things can come. I think we have gone through some of these things. That's why all the government policies that we looked at, they all try to stabilize the economy. Because when the macroeconomic variables are stable, it is good for development of the economy. So the main objective of government is to do this, and I think we have talked about them already. Looking at how they will be able to stabilize economic growth, how they'll be able to stabilize economic growth, reasonable price level, and then the employment, and then stabilize balance of payments. So that is how what the government is expected to do. There are other things that you do when we get to expenditure them. So we ask ourselves, how does fiscal policy work? How does fiscal policy work? So here we are going to look at fiscal policy and how it works. So if it's taxation that you are looking at, when government raises tax, or maybe when government reduces tax, how does it affect us? So we need to trace it from, let's say, government reduces tax, let's say income tax, direct tax. We can look at direct tax and then look at indirect tax. I think I have it in the handouts that I gave you. You have the details there. Because this one, I thought I'll be in the lecture room. Maybe we would have done it on the board for you to see. But here we look at taxation, tax. We are looking at income tax, for example. How does it affect us? So if government reduces it, we have disposable income going up, our consumption going up, right? And for that matter, increasing growth of outputs, and then the economy growing. Or we look at indirect taxes. If it's reduced, our purchases go up, then you trace it to how it will be able to influence, if it's price that you are looking at, if it's growth that you are looking at, if it's employment that you are looking at. You look at how the action of government goes from point to point to influence, hit the target that you are looking at. Then you look at government expenditure. We discussed the multiplier first here. So through the multiplier, when government spends, how does it influence the others? And for that matter, if government wants to increase growth or increase employment, how does it happen? You should be able to trace and know how fiscal policy works. Would you be able to do it? Hello? Hello? Are you there? Hi. I want to find out
Hello,
if you'll
madam.
be able to do it. Yes, please. Amidu. Is it Amidu? Yes.
Madam, if you could please go over. Madam,
Fiscal
yes, madam.
policy.
I said, madam, if you could please go over.
Okay. What I'm saying is, if you want to see how fiscal policy works, we are looking at the actions of government. So we need to trace if it's taxation that you are looking at. If you have direct tax and then we have indirect tax. So you have to take direct tax, let's say, for example, income tax. When government reduces income tax, how does it work? The channel that it works to, let's say, if government wants to create more jobs, how does it work to create more jobs? So we look at government reduces income tax, so disposable income goes up, we spend more, So output increases and then businesses expand, and for that matter, more jobs can be created. Something like that. So if you're looking at indirect, if government reduces indirect taxes, what happens? Goods and services become cheap, demand increases, and that can retrace it to hit employment. If you're looking at expenditure, I looked at when government spends, you can use the multiplier to explain the diverse expenditures that will come in and how it will help increase employment. That's how fiscal policy works. And I was asking you if you'll be able to do it. It's in the handout that I gave you. But will you be able to do this one?
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
Thank you.
Welcome.
But I have a problem. Is John here? The course prefect, John. Is he here? Oh, he's not here. And Louis is not here. The number is very small. I don't know. Anyway, even lecture, you don't attend, so I'm not surprised.
Madam, a lot of people were saying that they don't, as in, have any idea that we had a class today. So maybe that is why, like,
You
a lot
don't
of
have
people
what?
aren't here.
You don't have what?
A lot of people
Madam, we
came
didn't
to know that
information
we didn't
about
know
the
that
class
there was a
today.
class today.
Did you know?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Or is that so?
Yes, please.
You didn't inform them. You didn't inform them. Because the number is too small. Okay. If yeah, could you? Yes, please. It's not here. I'm not seeing it. I'm on the page, but I'm not seeing them. It was- Because we don't have even 30 people. So I was thinking of ending so that next week the other join because the number is too small. What do you think? Yeah. No. Oh, okay.
Yes, madam, the message
Those
came
on.
today.
Okay, then I think we can go on. If someone on YouTube, then I think we can go on. Right? Okay. Then let's make progress. I was thinking of the number, but if someone on YouTube, then I think we can go on. So we are moving on. If that one is okay for you, we are moving on to look at the main objective of government. The main objective of government. We looked at the stability of the economy, and now we are going to look at other things because the government is not only there to manage the economy, there are social issues, there are political issues. So we are going to look at other expectations that we have for the government. The first one is to protect life and property. Protect life and property by exercising the monopoly of force and establishing property rights. Here, protect life. We expect the police, the defense. Defense is a public good, and we expect the government to make provision for that. So it's the government's responsibility to protect us. So we saw that when the COVID came, it became his responsibility. When we are talking about government, we are not looking at only Nanado or the president in power at the time of the issue that we are looking at. We are looking at the executive. It is their responsibility to make sure that they protect us. So to protect life and property is one. That's why the defense, the police, the military, the navy, the immigration, all those people, they are paid by the government and they are arms of government. So their work is to protect us as citizens of the country. And then property. It is only the legal system that gives us the right to property. So if you have land, you have your house, you have whatever, you need a legal document to show that this is for me. Other than that, you'll be sitting on top of your story building, your mansion, and one macho man will just come and then pull you down and then take over it. But we have laws and regulations that do not allow that. So it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that the legal system works well so that all these property rights and others are put in place. Businesses are registered, and then partnership and all those things. It's got to do with the legal system, and the legal system belongs to the government. So it's the responsibility of the government to do this for us. So that is the first that we expect. Apart from the management of the macroeconomic variables, we expect the government to do this one for us. The next one is to improve economic efficiency by addressing the various causes of market failure. Have I done market failure with you? Let me see. I don't know. Planning. Did we do economic planning?
No, we didn't.
I forgot.
No.
You people.
Madam,
No. We didn't.
We've done it. I just want to remember the topic. We've done it. We did it last semester. Okay, let me explain. Don't worry, I will explain. I think I mentioned the public goods. Didn't we do public goods, externalities? We didn't do it.
Madam, we didn't do it.
no.
Are you sure we didn't do it?
We did it with
Dr. Boabin?
Yeah.
Let me explain.
yeah, we
Say it.
yes.
Okay, don't worry. Let's take it over again. We are looking at, when we talk about economic efficiency, we are looking at where the perfect competitive market is efficient. And then when the perfect competitive market is efficient, it means price. We are looking at the point where price is equal to MC is equal to MR, marginal revenue, marginal cost, demand. That line where the AC curve sits on the price line. I think we did this one last year. When I explained why the perfect competitive market is the perfect competitive market is the most efficient of all the markets. That is that point that we are looking at. So when we talk about market efficiency, we are looking at where price is equal to MC and is equal to AC and is equal to MR, that line. I don't know if you can envisage it. So here, when the market is efficient, then we assume that price is equal to MC. But there are certain variables, their characteristics and nature is such that they don't meet, their provision do not meet this kind of condition. And this is where we say market failure. So the market fails anytime this condition is not met, when price is not equal to MC. And here we have some variables that actually cause the market to fail. So anytime the market does not meet this condition, we say there is market failure, which means the market is failing. It fails to meet the efficiency condition. And the variables that can cause the market to fail is public goods. So when we talk about public goods, we are looking at certain goods that have certain characteristics that make them such a way that the private person or the individual may not want to provide them, so the market will not provide them. These characteristics, I think I've explained this in you people. Anyway, these characteristics there are two. Goods that are seen as public goods are non-rivalrous. When we say they are non-rivalrous, what it means is the usage does not deplete the facility. So when somebody uses it, it doesn't get finished. Anybody can use it without any additional costs. So examples, let's say street lights. If you have street lights, anybody can pass under it. It will not, I mean, go off, or it will not spoil, or it will not get finished because somebody else is using it. So it's non-rivalrous, and any good that is seen as a public good is non-rivalrous. So if you take private goods like my phone or my dress or my food, you see, when you use it, it will get finished. So I will not allow you to use it. So we say that that one is rivalrous. And then another, I hope that one is clear. The non-rivalrous one, is it clear?
Yes, please, it's clear.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
And the other,
Yes, madam.
okay. And the other one is non-excludability. The non-excludability comes in when once you make provision for the facility, it's not possible for you to prevent other people from using it. Let's say we live in a community and you have money, so you manage to asphalt the street in front of the lane that you live in. Do you think it will be possible for you to roll it back, and then when you are coming, they spread it for you to come use it? It's not possible. So once you provide it, everybody can use it. You can't prevent other people from using it. So this is what we call, and because it hasn't got a single use, nobody wants to pay for it. So we take these goods as public goods. An example is defense, street lights, we have libraries, you have other goods that are public goods. So here, inefficiency comes in because they don't meet the condition. Price is actually not equal to MC. So the market will not provide them. So here, the government comes in and then try to make provision for this. So we expect the government to come in and improve the economic efficiency so that we have access to public goods. So the government provides them, take taxes from us, and then pay for them. Another one is externalities. And I think I've spoken about externalities before, where I mentioned that I have a sawmill, you remember? They will say no. So I better do it.
Yes, please.
You remember?
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, please.
So when we have externality, if it's negative, it means the government will have to come in, take tax from those who are producing negative externalities. What it means is they are actually not taking care of the pollutions that they cause in the economy. So the government comes in and then take taxes from them to correct, compel them to reduce the emission of the pollution. Because you know that when government tax comes in, it shifts the supply curve backwards. Are you back there? Are you back there? When government
Yes,
imposes
madam.
tax,
Yes,
it shifts
please.
the supply backwards. So it compels them to reduce production and, for that matter, reduce the pollution.
Sure.
So in these two instances, the government comes in and then they improve the system so that we have economic efficiency. There are a lot, but I think these two are enough to allow you to understand this point. Then we look at income distribution. We've just looked at income distribution. We've looked at inequality and poverty, growth, welfare that come along with them. So what we are saying is the government has a tool that it used to bridge this income gap. So it says to achieve some accepted standard of equity. So here we expect that the government will use its tax policies to compel those in the higher income group to pay more tax so that it bridge the gap and make provision for those in the lower income group. And then so it reduces the gap between the higher income group and then in lower income group to bridge the inequality that we have in the economy. And for that matter, forestall the effects of welfare and then the economic performance. The next point also look at the stabilization, which we have looked at already, the growth, the price, and all those things, and the non-employment. So we have looked at all these, and then we said that these are what we expect the government to do for us. Are you okay, or you have any issue here? issues? Do we have issues here? Oh, I can go on. Hello. Are you there?
Yes, madam.
Now you can
You are
go
there.
on.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can go
Yes,
on.
please, madam. Can we close?
Okay. Okay, so here, what we have here, we are going to analyze, have a little analysis of government revenue. I have my data up to, which is very old. I expect that you get new data to prepare a table like this for me. And from 2006 to, where should I fix you? To 2018. To prepare a table like this, I'm giving you, have you submitted your assignments?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, you
Yes,
submitted.
please.
Okay. I'm giving you something
Yes,
small to
please.
do for me. So get data from a table like this, the first column. You keep the first column and then you fill in the others from 2006 to 2018. Prepare a table and then send it to me. 1 week to do that. If you can't get it, I go to Rural Development. Yes, you can go to Ministry of Finance. You tell me your source. Please don't cook figures for me.
Madam, please come again. You said you should
I'll
keep
go to the Bank of
Madam,
Ghana
you said you
and
should
get the
keep the
data.
first unit.
Sorry,
Madam, please, I said come
I didn't
again.
get you. Can you come back?
You mentioned something about the first space. I think you said we should keep the first space and fill in the rest from 2006 to 2018, right?
Yes, the first column. So I want you to get the central government finances. So you have revenue receipts. You fill in for the years that I've asked you, 2006 to 2018. You take tax revenue. You take non-tax revenue, grants, recurrent expenditure, capital expenditure, total budget deficit surplus, kind of, right? You do it for the years for me. And you send it to Kojo a week by now. I should have it so that he will print for me to look at it. Okay? Thank you. So we are going to analyze the fiscal policy, the government budgets. Okay. So if you look at the first column, we have public finance, and these are the indicators. We have the units, that's the money. That's here is CDs. These are the old CDs. So you are going to use the new CDs because we had times before we introduced the new CDs. So I use the old CDs. So we have the years here. So you come here, revenue receipts, that the total revenue that the government received in 2000, 2001, up to 2005. This is the total revenue that the government received. The first row, that's what it talks about. And out of that, tax revenue was, let's say, let me use one of the years to explain to you. If you look at the year 2000, the total revenue was 5,000. It's in billions. I don't know how to mention it anyway. So let me look at what you have here. So 5,385. Out of that, tax alone was 4,401. And non-tax revenue, when we talk about tax revenue, I guess direct tax, indirect tax, all those things come from that. The import duties and all those things are part of tax. They are indirect taxes. And then non-tax revenue will be maybe the sale of government property, royalties, and others. They were just 396. So it tells you that the total revenue of government, tax makes a chunk of revenue to the government. So it's not surprising that when the COVID is disturbing businesses and the government is becoming alarmed because greater chunk of government revenue is coming from taxes. So if the people are not working, if the private sector is not working, how does the government get this revenue? Or the other non-tax revenue is not even up to 1,000. And it's throughout the years. Look at even 2002. if you look at 2002, the total government revenue was 10,325. And out of that, tax was 8,547. And non-tax revenue was only 252. So it tells you that greater chunk of, and it's not only in Ghana, it's in many countries, taxation makes a lot of government revenue. So that is it. And we are looking at grants. This is the composition of grants. Then that would be for revenue. So let's look at government expenditure. We have recurrent expenditure, and then we have capital expenditure. We will discuss expenditure into detail. When we talk about recurrent expenditure, we're looking at the salaries, the travel allowance, the other expenditure that keep on coming every now and then. It's everyday business, like every month or every quarterly, they come, subventions and others. They are the recurrent expenditure, the personal emoluments. The capital one is the one for construction of roads, the hospitals, and other infrastructure. That is the capital expenditure. Or maybe if government makes investments, these are the capital expenditure. So out of the total expenditure, we find 5,000, let's say 2,000, we have 5,034 being on recurrent expenditure. So the payment of salaries and others, they really, the V8, fueling of the V8 and all those things, they really take chunk of our money. Look at the year 2002. And even as the years go by, they increase. 2005 is 18,000. Look at it. And the capital expenditure is small. It's 2,529. And that is what brings in the growth. And look at it. So today we strike the difference. So you have total expenditure, you have total revenue here at the top here. So it tells you whether we have a surplus or we have a deficit. Throughout the years, it's all deficit. It's only 2005 that we have some small surplus, 496. So that is analysis of government expenditure. And it is something like this that I want you to do for me for the years that I've given you. Do we have issues? Or you do it nicely for me? Thank you. We are moving on to look at government expenditure. Government expenditure. So we'll first look at the classification of government expenditure. We have the functional classification. So how we have grouped government expenditure, that is what we are going to do. They are different, they are in different caps. If you look at the budget, you are going to see some of these captions there. So we have object classification, we have capital expenditure, and then others. We'll first look at the functional classification. The functional classification actually spells out what the government does. So it's expenditure on what the government does. So the first one is general administration. So here we are looking at the provision of public goods. So we have defense, we have justice, we have police, we have the executive, and all the others. So that is the general administration. Then we talk about community services. Community services, we are looking at roads, waterways. When we talk about waterways, it's not like the gutters that we have in town. Let's say if you are traveling on the highway, in towns you have gutters, but when you after the town, they will dig the gutter all right, but they will not cement it. They will not put coverts or other things in it. It's just the digging so that water can pass through, so that water will not stuck on the roads and spoil it. So they are called waterways. Fire. So yes, please. The question? So somebody wants to ask me a question. Okay. Uh-huh. I didn't get your question well. The years for the assignments. Okay, okay, I get it. I get it. Okay, no problem. Let's do it that way so that it will be easier for us. So that we use the new currency. It's right. So I agree. Thank you for prompting me. Okay, so we continue. We were looking at community services such as roads and waterways, fire. That's why when you have fire in your house or fire anywhere, the fire service is free. It's the government that takes care of it. Then we have water, sanitation, the collection of refuse and all those things. It's the responsibility of the district assemblies, the local governments. And we have water and sanitation as a ministry. So the government takes care of it. We are looking at social services, provision of education, the free SHS, primary school is free, and the university people, we don't pay tuition. It's only the few paying people who pay tuition. So education, health, social security. When we come to social security, we are looking at the paying of pensions. If you are working for the government, when you pay a pension, the government also pay a certain percentage for which is far higher than what you individual you pay. So that is where the money goes. Then we are looking at welfare. Welfare, we are looking at access to transport and other facilities. Then we come and talk about economic services. We are looking at agriculture, government expenditure on agri, like the mass spraying, the subsidizing of fertilizer and the others. Extension services provision is the government that pays them and make sure that they attend to the farmers and others. Fuel and power, government expenditure in the fuel sector and the energy sector. Mineral resources, the exploratory work and others, manufacturing, construction, and transport. Government makes expenditure in all these areas so that it ensures that we have good system, or maybe the economy goes smoothly and then everything goes on well. So we're looking at construction, bridges, and all those things, this under construction, and then transport also. Then we move on to look at abject classification. The abject classification comes to personal emoluments, our salaries. If you look at government expenditure, you look at the chunk that goes into recurrent expenditure. It's all here. It's all here. Personal emoluments, traveling and transport, the TNT that if you joke with, civil servants will kill you. And then general expenditure. We talk about maintenance and renewals of government property. We have other recurring. The subventions are given to the institutions like the universities, the hospitals, and other areas. So they are giving subvention. Let's say every quarterly, government gives them money that they will use in maybe managing the universities. So these are all the institutions. Some health institutions also take subvention from the government. So all these make up recurrent expenditure, and they are classified under objects. Then you have the capital expenditure. Under it, you have construction. And I guess you know construction will mean the roads, the hospitals, the schools, structures, and all they are all construction. And then plant and equipment, the purchase of equipment and then plants are all parts of recurrent capital expenditure. Furniture for government bungalows, for government offices and others. And the V8s, all the vehicles, the V8 and all the others. And then the other capital, we may have other capital that have not been classified under this one, like the computers and all the others. They are all part of the capital expenditure. Then we look at others that are not specified here. We look at interest payments, the loans, what we are owing, the interest payments on it, the sale of treasury bills, bonds, all the interest payments is part of government expenditure. And then the government allocates some money for the district assembly. I've forgotten the percentage now. I've forgotten the percentage, but a certain percentage of the national income goes into the district assembly common fund. It used to be 5%, but now I can't remember. I can't remember that. I don't want to dilute you. So those interested can check and then get it. Thank you. So that is the classification of government expenditure. Now, governments around the world, expenditure has been increasing. It's not only in Ghana, it has been increasing. Government expenditure, if you look at, let's go back to the table, and then you see that government expenditure every now and then from 5. Are you there at the table? Okay.
Yes, please, madam.
So government expenditure. Okay, thank you. Government expenditure, recurrent expenditure alone. You see that it keeps on increasing from 5,000 something to 6,000, 9,000, 12,000, 16,000, 18,000. So every year it keeps on increasing. Even if you're looking at capital expenditure, it keeps on increasing. So it's not only in Ghana, it's everywhere. If you have time and then you look at the government expenditure pattern of the developed countries, it's the same. And even now that we have the COVID, I'm sure it's going to be worse. So we are going to look at some theories that have been put forward to explain why government expenditure across the world have been increasing every now and then. So we are going to look at some of them. The first one is to look at Wagner. Wagner was a German economist, and in 1890, he propounded what we call the law of expanding state activity. The law of expanding state activity. And I think those who have the handout, you have the explanation in it. What it means is what Wagner was saying is, as the economy grows, the government are compelled to spend more because as the economy is growing, there will be the need for security, there will be the need for the legal system because the systems are becoming complicated. So government may have to spend on these so that the economy will grow to support the growing of the economy. So as the state expand, right? Expand means maybe the level of economic activity goes up. Education facility will have to improve because as the economy is expanding, people may be coming in, government may have to provide for them. The legal system will have to grow so that as issues become more complicated, they will address them. So all these will cause the government to spend more. Are you there?
Yeah, we're there.
Is it clear? Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have another study by Bamo. Bamo says he looks at it that as time goes on, government expenditure will go up because of the cost of producing public goods. The cost of, so we are looking at the prices of cost and of provisions for these public goods. That's what Bamo is saying. So he says the government expenditure can go up, maybe it's not increasing the services available, but the cost of producing them have been going up. So you find government expenditure going up. And actually, for some studies have found out that inflation can also cause government expenditure to go up. And this one is obvious. So that is Bamo's view, the cost of producing government goods and services. Then we have another study by Peacock and Weissman. They are saying that we have what we call the social disturbances. In every world, we have the natural disaster coming in. So when the natural disaster comes in, government expenditure obviously goes up. When we have war, in times of war, government will have to spend more. In times of peace, government expenditure goes down. In times of what we have now, like this pandemic coming in, government is spending on issues that normal circumstances, or some of the greater part of the expenditures that we have now, you might not find it in the budgets. Like the food they supplied, the provision of nose masks and PPEs, and all, they were not in the budget because government did not anticipate it. So they are just social disturbance that had come in. So now we are experiencing Peacock and Weissman's theory. So that is what they also say. And then we have Mahana and then Tulloch. They also use the theory of public choice to explain the growth of public expenditure. So they are looking at, when we talk about public choice, we are looking at the type of government that you have. We are looking at the type of government that you have. So if you have a planned economy, what it means is if you are the communist type, it means you have to be making provision for your people. So you will spend more. If you are in, let's say, capital economists, the expenditure of government is restricted to the provision of infrastructure and others. So your expenditure pattern is different. So government expenditure will go up or come down depending on the public choice that you have. Then you have Musgrave and Peacock, and Rustow also explaining the long run growth of public expenditure. And they look at the levels of development. So as the economy is developing, government may have to spend more because government will have to support the development of the economy. So let's say we have a new area opening up. People settle there, the economy is growing, industries are setting up. Government is compelled to make provision for electricity, internet, roads, and markets so that the place become habitable for the people. So as the economy is growing, you find government expenditure also increasing. But this one is called the developmental models. So he says programs such as the critical minimum efforts, the big push, and balanced growth suggest more government involvement in the economy. So these are some theories that also explain why government expenditure goes up. So for critical minimum efforts, so at least they expect the government will, make a minimum effort to help to push the economy to grow. That's the big push, to push the economy to grow. So government is expected to come in because they need these public goods that should be there. Let's say if the community is developing, you find that you have to build a police station there. You have to do this, you have to do that. So this minimum effort at least is expected from government, and this one can cause the government to spend more. So these are some theories that have been put forward to explain why government expenditure across the globe have been going up every now and then. I think you have the details in the handouts. Please, I'll plead with you that you read and get the details. And as you read and you have issues, please note them down so that when we meet, we can discuss them. Are you okay here?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we are looking at the growth in government expenditure in Ghana. And we've made these are just empirical issues. And I think I even have a paper on this one you can download and also read. It's on this topic, the growth of government expenditure in Ghana. I think it's co-integration analysis of growth in government expenditure in Ghana. So you can download and also read if you have time. Now you have time, so go and read. So let's look at some empirical evidence on why the expenditure of Ghana government has been going up every now and then. This may not explain all, but at least it will give us a clue. So he says government expenditure has been increasing due to the expansions in the public sector, the creation of new districts, increases the number of ministerial appointments, among others. When another increases ministers, and people have been complaining because the more the ministers, the more the V8s, the more the accommodation you have to give, the more the allowances. So when the size of the public sector is increasing, it brings in a lot of expenditure. So this one can also cause the government expenditure in Ghana to increase. The more districts, the more constituencies, the more MPs, the more V8s, and that kind of analysis. I hope you are there. And then increases in the population of the country. As the population grows, we have seen population already, and we have seen the increases. Now we are going to take the census. It will go up definitely. So as it increases, we expect the government to build more schools, more health facilities, more roads, more housing facilities. A whole lot of issues come along as the population is increasing. So in the quest of the nation to develop, the government is compelled to increase its spending on infrastructure such as roads, electricity, among others. As the economy is growing, government expenditure will have to increase because they have to provide access roads. There are new areas that have come up, especially in Accra and then some parts of Kumasi and Takoradi, and they call on the government, look at our roads, and a whole lot of issues are coming. So the government is called upon to make provision for infrastructure. As new communities develop, we expect that he builds schools. So as the nation is growing, we have the developmental models here. We discuss the developmental models by these people. So as the economy is growing, government is not different from the other world. You also have to increases in minimum wage tend to increase government wage bill and other personal emoluments. So obviously, you are there. And the increases in price levels, they make the price of goods and services, or the cost of producing government goods also go up. And I think one of the theories also mentioned it. Cost of producing, the It's Bamu who mentioned it. So government is not different from governments in other countries. So both domestic and external debt servicing interest payments is on the government expenditure classification. Because at times, if you look at the budget and the percentage that has to be used to finance or pay interest, it's a whole lot. So both domestic and external debt servicing has been contributing to the increase in government expenditure in Ghana. Natural disasters like flood, when there is flood, government will have to act. Bushfires, government will have to act. And now we have COVID, government is acting. So we have a practical experience. And then when there is flood in Accra, you see what happens. There is the storm, people's roofs and others go off, they call on government. So natural disaster will have to go in. When they go in with government money. When we have flood in the north, when the Burkina Base opened their Belgrade Dam and there is flood, the government will have to go in, provide some incentives, and then those who lose their homes and others, you have to cushion them, do a whole lot of things for them, build tents and all these things, natural disasters. They also cause the government to spend more. A series of them in Ghana here. Breakout of war, the war in the north, a whole lot of money. When the Yana issue came, soldiers were detailed there and they stayed there for a very long time. And when they are there, they are out of station. So they take allowances, they have to be fed. There are a whole lot of expenditure that come. And when there are wars, especially in the north, that we have some breakouts, and then the Nkunya and those people, the wars there, they are all causing the government to spend more. So all these increase the expenditure of the government. So that is we saw the theories and then we've seen the practical aspects in Ghana as to how the government spends more. Are we okay there?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the next thing that we are going to look at is I know you are laughing at me because when I look at the time, I know you expect me to stop, but I want us to land safely. Okay, let's end here. Or you give me, spare me
Thank you
some
very
of your
much.
time. Ah.
Thank you very much.
No. Yes, madam. Yes, Thank you very much.
Oh, madam, we are okay. We are okay.
Madam, we've exhausted
This is
our
enough. This is
manners.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, madam.
Guys, be sincere. Guys, be sincere.
Okay. So,
Madam,
God
what is
willing, next week. Yes.
Madam, we
Yes.
attach you 30 minutes more.
You are left with.
We are dashing you 30 minutes so that you.
Hey, who is that?
Okay, that will be fine.
Hey,
I will do.
Are you sure?
Where's the
How
meaning of
can
dash?
You.
madam is lying.
Where's
He's
the meaning
lying.
of dash?
Don't that guy.
But he
You
can
people,
stay.
you
Where's the
people
meaning
are-
of dash?
I won't be.
How can you dash?
So do we have a test or we?
Yes, you have it, sis.
Okay, so
Okay.
you have a test.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, no
please.
problem. I will end here, and God, the next week you will continue.
Oh, sure.
Thank
No
you,
problem.
madam.
When?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam,
Madam,
wait,
next week by
please,
this time,
when?
right?
Take care of yourselves. Okay, thank you
Madam,
for
next week,
signing.
which
You too. Take
day?
care.
Madam, please, next week, which day?
It's
come
the
on,
same
come
lecture
on.
day, lecture time.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay, madam.
Morning like this. Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay, please.
Okay. You're welcome.
8
And
to
thank
10,
you
right?
too.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, 8 to
Have a
10.
nice
Hey,
day.
Mo.
And please have a
Where's
nice
his
day.
name?
Everything of yourselves.
You too.
Everybody
Bye.
wants to talk.
Thank you.
Oh,
Bye.
Lauren, what's wrong?
Please.
Lauren, my feel.
Okay, Alex dear wo.
Alex,
Hey.
bye.
Unless who?
Hey, Laurent, is that how you are?
Unless who? Unless
My day.
trouble. Who be some
My day.
Who be some why
Hey,
Who be some why
please, I beg you. Charlie, me tell me how I be about to her.
we need some one more. What's it? We need some one more. Bye bye.
And also, when you say,